In the high, thin air of the northern mountains, where the wind carries the scent of cedar and old snow, there lived a man named Kato. He was a swordsman of immense potential, a man whose hands possessed the natural grace of a predator and whose eyes could track the flight of a dragonfly in the dusk. He lived in a small hut on the outskirts of a village that had long ago stopped expecting anything from him. Kato spent his days waiting. He sat by the hearth, watching the embers fade into gray ash, waiting for the spark that would compel him to draw his blade. He told himself that the sword was a sacred extension of the soul, and to wield it without the fire of inspiration was to insult the art itself. He waited for a feeling. He waited for a surge of lightning in his blood that would tell him today was the day he would master the 1,000-cut kata. On the days when the sun rose and his heart felt heavy or indifferent, he remained seated. He believed that to force the work was to produce hollow work. He believed that greatness was a visitation, a divine gift that arrived on the wings of passion. Because the feeling did not come, the sword remained in its scabbard. Because the sword remained in its scabbard, the rust began to eat at the steel. Kato was a prisoner of his own internal weather, a slave to the most fickle master in existence, his own mood. He did not realize that while he waited for the heat of the sun, the winter was quietly burying his potential. The tragedy of Kato was not a lack of talent, but a surfeit of hope. He hoped for a reason to begin. He looked at the masters of the capital and saw only their moments of triumph, imagining that they lived in a perpetual state of ecstatic resolve. He did not see the cold mornings. He did not see the blistered hands or the monotonous repetition of the basic strike performed 10,000 times in the rain. To Kato, action was the result of an emotional state. If the state was absent, the action was impossible. This is the primary deception of the human ego, the belief that we must feel like doing something before we do it. It is a sophisticated form of cowardice. By tethering his progress to his motivation, Kato ensured that he would never have to face the true discomfort of growth. He could blame the universe for his stagnation. He could say that the gods had not moved him. He was waiting for a ghost to pull the sword for him, not realizing that the ghost was his own fear, disguised as a quest for authenticity. He sought the peak of the mountain but refused to acknowledge the stones at his feet. The man who waits for the right moment is the man who ensures the moment will never arrive. The man who waits for inspiration is a spectator in his own life. The invisible trap that ensnared Kato is the same trap that claims the lives of most men. It is the identity gap. We perceive ourselves as the person we wish to be, the master, the creator, the warrior, but we do not inhabit the skin of the person who does the work. We fall in love with the image of the result and develop a profound loathing for the process. This loathing is managed through the drug of motivation. Motivation is a chemical lie. It is a momentary spike in the blood, a fleeting alignment of neurochemistry that makes the difficult seem easy. But the nature of all fire is to consume its fuel and die. When the fire of motivation dies, the man is left shivering in the cold, and because he has no hearth, he stops moving. He mistakes the absence of excitement for the absence of ability. He tells himself he is burned out, or that he is searching for his purpose, when in reality, he is simply unwilling to move without a reward. He has become a motivation addict, constantly seeking a new source of external or internal stimulation to bypass the gate of discipline. He is looking for a way to achieve the end without enduring the means. He is looking for a path that does not require the death of his comfort. Consider the life of Miyamoto Musashi, a man who walked the earth not as a seeker of feelings, but as an architect of systems. Musashi did not survive 61 duels to the death because he felt inspired on the morning of a fight. He survived because he had reduced his life to a series of uncompromising repetitions. In his Dokodo, he wrote of the importance of never straying from the way regardless of how one felt. To Musashi, the sword was not a tool of expression, but a tool of precision. He did not wait for the spirit to move him. He moved his body, and the spirit followed. He understood that the mind is a chaotic storm of shifting desires and terrors. To trust the mind is to build a house on shifting sand. To trust the system is to build a fortress on stone. Musashi did not seek the flow state that modern men crave. He sought the void, a state of total detachment from the winds of the self. He knew that the man who can perform his duty while bored, while tired, while grieving, and while afraid is a man who cannot be defeated. Strength does not mean the absence of struggle. Strength means the presence of a structure that survives the struggle. The man who relies on motivation is a leaf in the wind. The man who relies on a system is the wind itself. A system is a predetermined set of actions that bypasses the need for a decision. Decisions are exhausting. Every time you ask yourself, should I do the work today? You have already lost. You have opened the door for the ego to negotiate. The ego is a master negotiator. It will always find a reason to choose the path of least resistance. It will tell you that you need more rest, that you need more research, that you need a better plan. It will dress procrastination in the robes of preparation. But the system does not negotiate. The system is a cold, indifferent machine. It says, at this hour, this action is performed. It does not care if you slept poorly. It does not care if you feel uninspired. It does not care if you are plagued by self-doubt. The system only requires the movement of the limbs. Discipline is the process of becoming the system. It is the transition from a person who thinks to a person who acts. Do not wait for the sun to rise to begin your journey. Start in the dark and let the movement of your feet create the light. We have been lied to by a culture that worships the Epiphany. We are told that one day we will find our passion and everything will become effortless. This is a poison. Effortlessness is the mask worn by decades of agonizing effort. The master does not find it easy. The master has simply become comfortable with the weight. The weight does not get lighter, the man gets stronger. This strength is forged in the silent, invisible hours. It is forged in the third hour of a task when the novelty has vanished and the boredom has set in. It is forged when you choose the repetition over the distraction. Repetition is the hammer that breaks the stone of the ego. Every time you perform the action without wanting to do it, you kill a small part of the boy within you and give birth to the man. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are the consistency of your actions. The fear of starting is actually a fear of the truth. As long as Kaido sat in his hut and did not draw his sword, he could maintain the illusion that he was a master waiting for his moment. He could protect his ego from the reality of his own mediocrity. Once he draws the sword and strikes the post, he must face the fact that his strike is weak, his timing is off, and his journey is long. Motivation allows us to dream of the finish line. Discipline forces us to look at the mud on our boots. We avoid the work because we fear the mirror that the work holds up to our souls. We fear the discomfort of being a beginner. We fear the quiet judgment of the hours we have wasted. But time is a predatory force. It does not pause for your self-reflection. It does not care about your potential. Every day you spend seeking motivation is a day you have surrendered to the grave. The illusion of progress through getting ready is the most dangerous form of stagnation. Reading the book is not the work. Planning the routine is not the work. The work is the work. Motivation follows action. This is the physiological reality that the dreamer refuses to accept. When you move, your blood changes. When you finish a task, your neurochemistry shifts. The momentum you seek is not something you find. It is something you manufacture through the sheer friction of doing. Momentum creates a gravity that pulls your identity toward your goals. You do not become a runner by wanting to run. You become a runner by running until the act of running becomes more natural than the act of sitting. You do not become a writer by waiting for a story. You become a writer by typing until the silence is broken. Discipline shapes identity. When you show up every day, regardless of your internal state, you send a message to your subconscious. I am not a slave to my whims. I am the master of my conduct. This realization is the only true source of confidence. It is not the confidence of I can do it, but the confidence of I have done it and I will do it again. Do not look for the end of the road. Look only at the next step. The mountain is conquered 1 inch at a time, not in a single leap of faith. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. If you wait for the strength to move the whole mountain, you will die at its base. Build a system that demands only the small stone. Build a system that makes the action so small that the ego does not feel threatened enough to resist. Then repeat. Repeat when it hurts. Repeat when it feels meaningless. Repeat when you are sure you are failing. The repetition is the prayer of the disciplined. It is the only way to reach the sacred. Strength does not mean the absence of fatigue. Strength means the ability to function while exhausted. Discipline does not mean the absence of desire. Discipline means the ability to ignore the desire for comfort in favor of the commitment to the task. Do not wait for the spark to ignite the fire. Be the flint and the steel. Be the friction. The world does not need more inspired dreamers. It needs more disciplined practitioners. It needs men who have replaced the volatility of emotion with the stability of a system. The man who is a slave to his feelings is a man who can be stopped by a cloud in the sky or a slight in the street. The man who is a slave to his system is unstoppable, for he has already decided what the day will bring before the day has even begun. As the years passed, Cato's hut fell into ruin. The villagers forgot his name, and the sword he had prized so highly was found by a traveler, rusted into its sheath, unable to be drawn. He had died waiting for a feeling that was never meant to be his guide. He had died with his potential intact, which is the greatest curse a man can carry. He had protected his heart from the cold, and in doing so he had ensured it would never beat with the rhythm of the world. Do not be Cato. Do not wait for the fire. Build the hearth, lay the stones, gather the wood. The fire will come because the system demands it, not because you asked for it. Your life is not the sum of your intentions. It is the sum of your habits. The warrior does not hope for a favorable wind. He learns to row in the calm. The man who seeks motivation is a beggar at the gates of his own mind. The man who builds a system is the king of his internal landscape. Do not ask for the burden to be lighter. Ask for the system to be stronger. Do not seek the heat of the moment. Seek the coldness of the routine. Action is the only truth. Momentum is the only magic. Discipline is the only freedom. You are what you do repeatedly. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. It is not a feeling, but a function. Commit to the system. Kill the negotiator. Move the stone. There is no tomorrow. There is only the repetition. Commitment is the only way out of the labyrinth of the self. Build the system, or be destroyed by the void.